Part 5. Book quote reading from my Zen mind balcony. No rivers to cross. Trusting the enlightenment that's always right here. The contributions ordained women traditionally have made to Korean Buddhism and continue to make today have been unconscionably neglected. Korean Buddhist monastic records offer little information on the activities of women. There is some evidence about nuns during the Silla dynasty, 57 BCE to 935 CE. A bit more about Buddhist women in general during the Golden Age of Buddhism during the Goryeo dynasty, 935 to 1392. But again, next to nothing during the Joseon period, 1392 to 1910. When women suffered under an oppressive social system and Buddhism endured the persecution of Confucian ideologues. Despite this apparent invisibility of nuns, Korean Buddhist nuns have actually made tremendous strides in bettering themselves and their tradition over the last quarter of the 20th century, and among the current generation of eminent nuns, no one star shines more brightly than does that of Daehaeng Kun Sunim. Indeed, there is no other nun who has been more influential in both the Jogye order and Korean society at large. In contemporary Korean Buddhism, Daehaeng Kun Sunim is one of the most renowned and respected figures and certainly one of the most influential nuns ever to have been active in the tradition. Daehaeng Kun Sunim has impeccable credentials. In the mountains of Korea before she began to teach. She is widely recognized in Korea as a teacher of profound insight and compassion, who has guided thousands of nuns, monks, and lay people throughout her career. Daehaeng Kun Sunim's ability to reach out to a wide audience of both ordained and lay Buddhists is well documented in this anthology, No River to Cross. Her method of teaching is disarmingly simple, yet remarkably profound. She is widely known for her insight into people's character and her ability to draw on that insight to craft teachings that correspond precisely to the needs of her audience. Arranged like traditional Indian sutra, No River to Cross organizes Daehaeng Kun Sunim's teachings in a way that is readily accessible to scholars and students alike. Daehaeng Kun Sunim emerges in this collection as one of the most creative and accessible of contemporary Korean Buddhist teachers, capable of using even the most mundane of daily events as grist for the mill of Buddhist teaching and practice. That's a picture from the German version of this book. It's not in the English version, I don't know why. A brief biography of Daehaeng Kun Sunim. Daehaeng Kun Sunim was born in 1927 to an aristocratic family. the family status ensured that they were originally quite wealthy, but by the time of Sunim's birth, their situation was precarious. Imperial Japan's efforts to colonize Korea led to a military occupation of Korea that began in 1904 and became progressively more cruel and suffocating. Her father had been a military officer in the court of the last Korean emperor and continued to resist to Japanese occupation. As a result, when Sunim was 6 years old, the Japanese military government seized her family's house, all of their belongings, and their remaining lands. They fled just minutes ahead of the Japanese secret police, with only the clothes they were wearing. The family crossed the Han River and built a dugout hut in the mountains south of Seoul. For a long time, their only food was what they could beg or what had been left behind in the fields after the harvest. The relentless tightening of the Japanese stranglehold on Korea, the collapse of the Korean court, and the pitiful situation of his family filled Sunim's father with despair and frustration. Although her father was always kind and helpful to other people, for some reason he poured out all of his anger and frustration onto Sunim, his eldest daughter. Confused and unable to understand what was happening, Sunim stayed away from the hut as much as possible. Although the darkness and the strange sounds of the night filled her with fear, Sunim began sleeping in the forest, covering herself with leaves to stay warm. By the time Sunim was 8 years old, these days of hunger and cold had lasted for about 2 years. Although her life had been quite hard, inside Sunim had begun to feel very different. The fear she had felt from being out in the mountains at night had faded, and the dark night had gradually become comfortable, warm, and beautiful. Inside the forest, there was no difference between rich and poor, superior and inferior. Within the forest, all lives supported each other and lived together harmoniously. In comparison, the world outside seemed to be filled with inequality and suffering. Intuitively, she sensed that there was something more, something fundamental, that her eyes weren't showing her. But what was it? For entire days, she would lean against rocks or trees, thinking about these questions, desperately wanting to know and see that which had made her. As she grew older, the desire became so strong that sometimes she felt that it would be better to just die than go on without knowing the answer to these questions. In the midst of this questioning, the forest was a source of peace and comfort that sustained her. One day she suddenly found what she had been searching for. It was already within her, and had always been within her. It was so warm and wonderful that she called it Appa, which means daddy. This wasn't the father whom she didn't dare let see her. the father who seemed to have no love at all for her. It was the inherent nature that made her true nature, the true doer. She cried and cried, calling out, "Daddy, Daddy," filled with joy and knowing that her true parent, her inherent nature, had always been with her. Years later, Kunsunin laughed about this, saying, "If I hadn't been so young and uneducated, I might have called it Buddha nature or true self. But at that time all I knew was that it was completely full of love and warmth, so I just called it Daddy. I took the Daddy that I felt within me as my father. From that time on, even though she didn't exactly understand what it was, Sunim took Daddy as her place of comfort and poured all of her love into there. Whenever she silently called Daddy, she felt as if all the rocks, trees, animals, and everything else became close friends, so close that it seemed as if they were all breathing as one. Somehow Sunim knew that Daddy could answer all of her questions, and so she just completely relied upon it. She just did so naturally and never tried to rely upon things outside of her. It seemed so amazing to Sunim that she who had nothing was given the infinite taste of the Dharma. Sunim felt that Daddy, her inherent nature, was more precious than anything else in the entire world. She kept insisting, "I want to see you." In response, the thought arose from deep within her, "Look in a mirror, I am there." No matter how many times or how long she looked in the mirror, the only thing she saw was her own face, nothing else. She was completely baffled. She had never heard any Dharma talks or studied any sutras, and couldn't understand what she was experiencing. Later, Sunim recalled, "Even though I was around 18 years old at that time, I still didn't understand the true meaning of that." How peaceful it is, just reading and drinking some tea, being in the present moment, enjoying the peaceful silence. Drinking my beloved camel milk. But let's get back to the book quote reading. These are mainly quotes from Daehaeng Kun Sunim's book, but I will add a few quotes by Shunryu Suzuki, Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. In 2007, I was in a vulnerable place. I had a burnout and I was really feeling beside myself, and this is the one book that I read over and over and over, at least 10 times, I think. No river to cross, trusting the enlightenment that's always right here. It is often said that enlightenment means crossing over to the other shore, meaning the right brain, that far-off place where we can at last be free from suffering, which is not so far off, actually. It's right inside your head. It is said that Buddha's teachings are the raft that takes us there. In the sparkling collection from one of the most vital teachers of modern Korean Buddhism, Zen master Daehaeng shows us that there is no raft to find and truly no river to cross. She extends her hand to the Western reader, beckoning each of us into the unfailing wisdom accessible right now, the enlightenment that is always, already right here. A Zen, or Son as Korean Zen is called, master with impeccable credentials, Daeng has developed a refreshing approach. No river to cross is surprisingly personal. It's disarmingly simple, yet remarkably profound, pointing us again and again to our foundation, our true nature, the perfection of things just as they are. Chapter 2. Eternal Truth. Han Mom. Han means one, infinite, and combined, and Mom means mind. So Han Mom means the fundamental mind that is intangible, invisible beyond time and space, and has no beginning or end. It means that all minds and all things, the world and the universe, are all interconnected and are working together as one. In other words, Han Mom embraces the whole universe and all the lives within it. Every single life and thing in the universe has Buddha nature, which has existed without beginning, exists now, and will exist forever. Buddha nature is only one, so it is Han Mom. It is inconceivably large, so it is Han Mom. It is not an individual thing, but the interconnected whole, in which all things are working together. So it is Han Mom. All things come from it. So it is Han Mom. The minds of all lives in the world are one. Fundamentally, there is no you or I separating them. Inherently, life is one. Inherently, life is Buddha. The minds of all lives are working together as one. So this is called one mind. The entire universe is directly connected to the fundamental mind of humans and all life. Juingong. Juingong is the fundamental mind with which each one of us is inherently endowed, and the mind that is directly connected to every single thing. Through this connection, Juingong functions together with everything as one. Juingong is my true foundation. My body and my thoughts are like branches and leaves that arise and disappear. Juingong is the root that makes new branches and leaves when the old ones break and fall. If I am the fruit, Juingong is the stem that sustains the fruit. If I am a stem, Juingong is the branch from which the stem hangs. If I am the branch, Juingong is the trunk that the branch comes from. If I am the trunk, Juingong is the root. The root is the basis of the tree. The trunk, branches, leaves, and fruit all come from it. Like this, all of my thoughts, all of my activities, and all of my virtue and merit arise from Juingong. Evolution and creation. From the perspective of a human being, we may think of some lives as tiny and seemingly worthless, but all existence is in the process of evolution. Thus, they are our past shapes, our old friends, and show us where we have evolved from. When we look at the 4 types of lives, we see that they have all evolved from microbes and that they form a progression from the lowest to the highest. However, these 4 types of lives exist within the body of every single life and are also evolving within each body. So how can we say which lives are the most important or which should be the standard for comparison? Look at the world. There is no starting or ending point. There is just the middle path. From the perspective of the process of evolution, lives are affected by circumstances and the environment, and they can adapt themselves to a certain degree. However, the more fundamental things depend upon consciousness. Emptiness doesn't mean that there is nothing. Emptiness gives rise to matter, and is not different from matter. Emptiness continuously manifests as matter. While living, it dies. While dead, it lives. It flows and changes without being stationary for even a moment. Emptiness is not dead. It is alive. To be empty means to be full, because the manifestations and workings of emptiness are so infinite. Sean Masters often just said nothing. Sometimes even this wasn't enough. So again they said nothing. Chapter 3. Mind and Science. Modern science has advanced greatly, but it has now begun to reach limitations that science itself can't overcome. Unless we develop our spiritual level, it will be impossible to overcome these limitations. Without spiritual development, it will gradually become more and more difficult for human beings to survive. This is because material development and spiritual development must occur together at the same time. Emphasis solely on material development is leading human society down a dead-end road. Do matter and material things lead humans? No. All matter and energy are controlled and directed by our fundamental mind. If people don't know this foundation, there is a limit to what science can do. Thus, we must take a new approach to science by returning to our fundamental mind and learning to start from there. Our inherent mind is the basis of every field of science. So, although scientists work on all kinds of research, it is only by knowing our fundamental mind that we can continue to develop. The speed of light is considered to be the fastest thing in the universe, but it is not faster than mind. The ability of mind is such that if you awaken, there is nothing you cannot know, and there is no place you cannot reach. Even the wonderful inventions produced by modern science cannot come close to the great power and ability of a Buddha, an awakened one. The limitations facing modern science can be easily overcome if you're able to use the mysterious power of mind. Not only can those who have awakened freely go to realms that exist in higher dimensions, but they can also transcend all dimensions, including space and time. The Buddha knew that displaying this ability tends to just confuse people without really helping them, so he was careful about doing such things. If you sincerely believe in the power of mind and awaken, then, while continuing to practice, you will be able to clearly see all of the things that are invisible to ordinary people. The ability of our fundamental mind is the most profound and mysterious thing in the entire universe. Even though medicine has advanced so much, in reality it isn't able to solve much more than 30% of the problems people face. Why is this? Modern science deals with only the phenomenal half of existence. So even at its best, it cannot possibly solve more than 50% of the problems confronting it. In order for science to understand the whole, it has to be able to understand the unseen half of existence. The only way to do this is through understanding our fundamental mind and putting that understanding into practice. It will be impossible to perform complete research unless one's latent consciousness and present consciousness combine together and function as one through the fundamental mind. Not only the Buddha, but also Daehaeng Kun and all other awakened beings have taught humanity the spiritual path by which they can transcend the limitations of material development. As life and death exist at the crossroads of inhaling and exhaling, our current material culture has now advanced to the point where we must change direction and travel the path of the spiritual. Some scientists are trying to communicate with extraterrestrials by sending signals into space, but the attempt to communicate with extraterrestrials through radio waves shows that these scientists do not know about the foundation. In order to communicate with beings like that, we have to take the material realm, the 50% we already know, and step into the spiritual realm, the unseen realm. The path is blocked if you ignore your foundation. Through mind, you have to activate the wireless telephone that is within you. Then the path will be open and you can communicate. If you can break through in this way, there is nothing anywhere that you cannot see, hear, or understand. Furthermore, nothing will be able to block or hinder you. you will become aware of the existence of a completely different style of living. This is what is called the all-reaching hands and feet of Buddha. From the basic elements, every kind of life arose. Every life has the inherent ability to change, and they have done so, manifesting with every kind of shape, over eons and eons. Even though some are born as animals, they don't remain that way forever. And even though some are born as humans, that isn't their permanent shape. All of this is driven by mind. If a toy top becomes unbalanced, it begins to wobble and can't rotate stably. Likewise, even our galaxy could not maintain the stable orbit if it weren't for the support of something called Mujonja. This Mujonja is the bridge that makes it possible to go back and forth between the phenomenal realm and the invisible realm. Further, it is this Mujonja that allows the orderly functioning of the principles and laws that govern the phenomenal world. The universe is full of unseen lives. Not only the Earth, but other planets are also crowded with them. In the body, blood circulates through arteries and veins, and the internal organs all perform their own functions. Likewise, galaxies and the Earth are also continuously moving and have their own roles to play in the functioning of the universe. All things in the universe are able to function together harmoniously because there is the fundamental underlying mind that allows them to rely upon and stabilize each other. Chapter 4. The Essence of Mind. What is mind? Mind is the foundation of the universe, the foundation of the sun, and the foundation through which human beings manage and do all of the things in their daily lives. Mind is the omniscient and omnipotent creator that makes everything and transcends all concepts. Mind does not have color, shape, location, beginning or end. Mind cannot be said to be this or that, inside or outside. Mind cannot be divided, cannot be absorbed, and cannot be destroyed. It transcends time, it transcends space, it transcends everything. There is mind inside of mind, the fundamental mind, which from the very beginning is absolutely clean, can never be stained, and is as it is. On the other hand, there is also the discriminating mind, which causes us to pass through the cycle of life and death. It doesn't know about the existence of the fundamental mind and thinks that ever-changing defilements and delusions are its essence. For the sake of explanation, we can talk about two different types of mind, but in actuality they are not separate. As a footnote, defilements. This term refers to all the properties that dull the mind and are basis for unwholesome actions and thoughts that keep people in ignorance. That's why I made this thumbnail. Entering the right hemisphere. This is your fundamental mind. When you switch into the left hemisphere, that's the little mind. That's why she says, basically they are one. However, if you operate from your left hemisphere, you have no idea about the existence of the fundamental mind until you cross over to the right hemisphere. Mind is always complete as it is, so it shines forth like the sun. Mind is never hindered by anything. It is always just as it is, inwardly and outwardly. Its ability is unlimited. There is no one and no thing that can take it away or destroy. No matter how powerful a spirit, no matter how great a Buddha, neither one can destroy your fundamental mind. Although the sun is very bright and the universe inconceivably vast, they are not greater than the light and ability of your mind. All realms and all universes are connected together through the same fundamental mind. Thus, everything shares the same body, same life, works together as one, and shares all things together. Mind can freely come and go without any hindrance, even over distances of thousands or millions of miles. Ultimately, everything and everyone in the universe is harmoniously living together, sharing the same mind. The nature of mind is like a clear and unstained mirror. When something is in front of such a mirror, the mirror reflects every single aspect of the image clearly. But if the object disappears, no trace of it remains on the mirror. Likewise, although mind reflects every single thing, no ripples or stains remain. Without understanding this aspect of mind, people paint all kinds of pictures on the mirror, one on top of another, and end up causing themselves hardships. However, if we return to our inherent nature, which is our most true and natural state, then the true reality of everything is automatically revealed. In the same way, even though defilements and delusions may seem very thick, true mind remains clear and bright, and is never stained. Mind has no hindrance. Inherently, every direction is wide open, nor are there impregnable silver mountains or iron walls that you have to penetrate. But if mind has no inherent hindrances, why is it said that there is something you have to overcome? Because through your thoughts you have built up a wall that blocks you. That's the left brain hemisphere, where the I resides. And if you switch over to the right hemisphere, this is where you find everything. You must understand the nature of mind. Although mind is intangible, it functions equally and thoroughly throughout all material and non-material realms. Once you realize this, you will understand that there never was any hindrance, in the first place. The profound ability of mind. When mind is deep and sincere, there is no place it does not reach. Mind is the true energy, the energy with which lives evolve and the world develops. However, unless people believe in the energy of mind, they cannot use it and it cannot manifest in their lives. If you would truly experience this energy for yourself, you must start by realizing it's there. Mind has the power of magnetism, the power of light, the power of electricity, and the power of communication. This infinite ability of mind brings whatever is needed, communicates with everything everywhere, and freely gives and receives. If you completely let go of the thought, I am doing, you can freely use the energy of mind, thoroughly and clearly, without being intimidated by anything. If you want to use the energy of mind, you just use it. If you don't want to use it, you don't, without clinging to thoughts of using or not using. You must know that the energy of mind comes from your foundation. Chapter 6. Guan, Entrust and Observe. Entrust and let go of everything. The wall of fixed ideas. Letting go means letting go of not only distressing and unpleasant things, but also every kind of fixed idea. We carry around so many fixed ideas, such as you and I, good and bad. You made all of these fixed ideas, and as long as you cling to them, it's impossible for you to become one with your true nature, Juingong. The worst prison in the world is the prison of thought. The most difficult wall in the world to overcome is the wall of fixed ideas. From a certain perspective, spiritual practice means freeing yourself from such prisons of thought. Thus, if you keep thinking, I'm just an unenlightened being, then because of that thought, you cannot play any role other than that of an unenlightened being. Be very aware of the great difference a single thought can make. Don't make a big deal about other people's level of spiritual development. If you discriminate between higher and lower, you will not be able to make progress in your own practice. Even though you truly know, do not give rise to the thought that you know. Even though you may be higher, do not think that you are higher. Even though someone else may be ignorant, you should not let yourself be caught by thoughts like that. Thoughts of I. Clinging to the idea that you and others are different, to the extent that you cannot even imagine everything is just one, is the fundamental obstacle that blocks the path to Buddha. At first, focusing on I may seem somewhat helpful, but in fact it is the foundation of evil. Clinging to these thoughts of I actually prevents us from being able to participate in the Buddha realm, and prevents us from experiencing the incredible benefits of that participation. Until we thoroughly know the truth of non-duality, there can be no lasting peace for us. Therefore, as a practitioner, you must not view anything dualistically, and you must heavily and sincerely release everything into your foundation and go forward. Wisdom is knowing that I does not exist. That's the persona, or all the isms that we have created. Wisdom is knowing that matter and the physical body are merely images in a dream, that they are just drops of water stirred up by the wind and waves. Ignorance is nothing other than insisting that an individual I exists, while forgetting that the physical body and matter cannot avoid disappearing. Just throw away I, and a million kinds of suffering and confusion will all fall asleep. My possessions, my thoughts, my fame, what I deserve, all of these imprison you inside of a barrel. Unfortunately, unenlightened people usually think that these are defensive walls that can protect them when they face troubles and difficulties. Therefore, you try to make them higher and thicker as time goes on. However, as you do this, your mind shrinks and becomes cold. As a result, this wall is not something that protects you. It is a wall that hurts you, a wall that imprisons you. Nothing can be put in a ball that is completely full. You cannot put anything into a mind that is already filled with thoughts of I, attachments, desires, and the self-pride that insists that you are the best. A ball has to be emptied before it can benefit from new things. Let go unconditionally. There are no justifications or reasons involved in letting go. As soon as something arises unconditionally, entrust it to Juingong, your foundation. Entrust everything to Juingong. Entrust the things you understand and the things you don't understand. Entrust happiness and entrust suffering. Entrust poverty and entrust disease. Let go of things that are not going well, and let go of things that are going well. Let go. Knowing only Juingong can truly show me the path. By letting go like this, you can empty your mind and unload the heavy luggage you have been carrying for eons. By letting go like this, you can clean up the dust of your mind, which has been accumulating for eons, and you can truly live and truly die. Don't try to take care of things by relying upon theories, sutras, clever words, or other people's ideas. Instead, just let go while believing that only Juingong can solve it. Let go once, let go twice, let go continuously, so that you are used to letting go. Keep letting go, so that it becomes second nature, like taking off your shoes when you enter a house. Then even problems of genetics and karma will melt down. Let go to emptiness. Where should we let go to? Let go to emptiness. What is emptiness? Emptiness means all lives changing and manifesting every instant and functioning together as one. Every single thing is empty, including myself. Everything is subject to the law of emptiness. Everything is changing and manifesting including myself. So we are inherently living while letting go. Even the thought "I've done" has no place to stick to. Thus, there's no need to even say "let go" or "entrust." However, many people don't understand this, so I say "let go to emptiness" as a method to help them realize the truth. How could we live without letting go to emptiness? Karma is the absolutely unavoidable result of what we have done. It arises continuously from within us. I am concerned that if I say to just let go of everything, it may seem too ambiguous. So I have said, take emptiness as the central pillar and let go of everything to that. When a pinwheel rotates, it relies upon the central point. Likewise, you have to make Juingong your foundation, your center point. Rely upon the center and entrust it with all things. When you can do this, you can live with vitality, and you can live freely, like flowing water. All things are directly connected to each other through the foundation, and unseen energy flows back and forth between all lives and things. However, when people discriminate, clinging to some things and rejecting or avoiding others, they block this energy from flowing freely. Thus, if you just let go and entrust everything to your foundation, to Juingong, this energy can flow naturally, exactly as needed. Although it is said that you should let go inwardly or return things inward, in fact, Juingong is neither inside nor outside. Juingong is the combination of all things in the universe, and existed before all of those things. Although it cannot be grasped, it can be grasped. The virtue and merit of letting go. When you keep letting go of everything to Juingong and observing, karma will collapse, habits will melt down. Your true self will be revealed, and every kind of hindrance will surrender to you. Juingong is like a mailbox. If you put something into Juingong and observe, it will be delivered, and a reply will return. When people hear "let go of everything," they often ask, "How can I live if I do that?" However, when you let go, you can truly live. Unenlightened people believe that it is necessary to plan and think carefully about every single thing. However, awakened people don't raise thought for each little thing. They do. Instead, they just rest deeply. Yet, everything they do is in accord with the Dharma, without even the slightest error. Because they let go, their actions are more harmonious, natural, profound, sincere, beautiful, and more beneficial than any actions that are done by relying on intellect or planning. Thus, for a true practitioner, everything in daily life is itself the path, because they let go and rest. Every single thing they do, whether moving, standing, sitting, or lying down, it's all naturally in accord with the Dharma. If you try to practice by depending upon some specific regimen or physical method, In the beginning, your goal may seem clear and close at hand. However, as you go further, your path becomes hazy and eventually it will come to a dead end. On the other hand, if you keep letting go and entrusting and experiencing the results of this, then the path that seemed narrow in the beginning will gradually widen, and in the end will become a great avenue and gateway to the truth. Living while completely letting go of everything produces infinite virtue and merit. First, every kind of suffering will collapse. Second, habits that have been sustained for eons by karmic affinity will all melt down. Third, the defilements and delusions that filled the mind will gradually disappear, and eventually there will be nothing to be empty and nothing to be full. At this point, your true self will be clearly revealed. To a practitioner, tomorrow does not exist, only here and now exists. That's the right hemisphere state. You should not postpone things, assuming that somehow the situation will be better tomorrow. It won't be any different if you don't make an effort now. Today, here, at this moment, you must see directly with clear eyes and must go forward steadily and calmly, like the noble steps of an elephant moving through the forest. Right here is the place of the Buddha realm. This moment is the instant that Buddha is born, and is the instant that encompasses all of the past and future. Thus, practitioners understand that this moment, this day, is all there is. This present moment is the instant of your birth, so it is this moment that you must practice. Go forward with steps that never leave any trace. Accept everything that confronts you with a positive attitude, and never try to avoid anything you face. It's not a problem of obtaining something or getting rid of something, or not getting rid of something. Just make sure you aren't trying to avoid the things that are coming, and don't try to cling to the things that are leaving. Become a brave person who is never stained by anything or attached to anything. Become a true human being, a person who is both the most normal and the most extraordinary. Again, that's the right hemisphere state. So beautiful. A courageous person covers 1,000 miles with a single step. A small-minded person, left-brained, can run 100 miles, and it still won't amount to even one step. Practice resting. So when you switch into your right hemisphere, you are indeed resting, because you are in the present moment, feeling deep peace. If you want to awaken, then your mind should be calm and spacious. However, if you continuously give rise to the thought that you want to become a Buddha quickly, or that you want to immediately escape the sufferings of an unenlightened being, then your mind will become narrower and more restless. The harder you try to grab something, the farther away it goes. Rest deeply, and it comes naturally. This is the magic of spiritual practice. Practitioners must be honest with themselves. This is because your foundation is Buddha, and the nature of Buddha is emptiness, where no fixed ideas exist, no deceptions, excuses or rationalizations can help you awaken to your foundation. Accomplishing things naturally is the best way, instead of using your intellect to make detailed plans in order to accomplish something, and trust it to your foundation. Your foundation is the source of all truth, so it is completely able to take care of whatever you entrust to it. Everyone can do this. Everyone can experience this. Yes, of course, because we all have a right hemisphere. But unfortunately, we all, or most of us, are in our left mind. And the goal is to switch to our right mind. I mean, there must be a reason for this saying, being in your right mind, right? When you do experience this, you can open your eyes to the infinite ability within yourself, and you naturally feel deeply grateful for your foundation. Yes, you do. When you switch to the right hemisphere state, it is wonderful, and all you feel is gratitude, oneness, and love. Never doubt that an ordinary, unenlightened person like yourself is endowed with infinite ability. Giving up without even trying is the reason unenlightened people stay unenlightened. Look at how water flows. When it meets a hole, it fills the hole, and then continues flowing. When it meets a rock or hill, it flows around it, and continues on. The practice of finding your true self should be done like this. How should you meditate? You can sit if you want to sit, stand if you want to stand, work if you want to work, or busily take care of your daily life. All of these can be practicing meditation. If you are looking for truth in some place other than your daily life, you will never find it. Carefully observe your tears, laughter, suffering, and happiness. Right there. Do the things you cry and laugh about truly exist? Does the self who cries and laughs truly exist? Keep watching very closely and carefully. Even if you're facing an emergency that seems beyond your ability, entrust that to Juingong and keep watching. Have faith in Juingong and continue to entrust and observe. Keep watching without discriminating between things. Juingong, your foundation, will take care of whatever you entrust it with. Firmly believe this and go forward. This is meditation. This is entrusting and observing. Have faith in Juingong and keep entrusting it with whatever confronts you, and just keep watching what comes out. When you entrust things to Juingong, never think of yourself and Juingong as being separate. Inherently, you and Juingong are one. You are the one who lets go, and at the same time, you are also the one who receives. Likewise, there is no separation between the one who is watching and what is being watched. If you are distinguishing between the one who is watching and what is watched, then this is not true and trusting and observing. Guan, observing. As things confront you, let them go to your foundation and continue to observe. Even if the sky collapses, continue to let go and observe. Let go of everything to your foundation and watch, because everything functions together as one through your foundation. Although I tell you to observe and entrust to your foundation all of the things and difficulties that confront you, fundamentally, none of those things are separate from Hanmao. Nonetheless, you still need to keep observing and entrusting them. If you keep practicing like this, your focus will change from letting go and observing to trying to find the foundation, the true self that watches you let go and observe. Observing means watching the center that has no fixed shape and never stands still. Observing is not praying for something, begging. Juingong for help is praying, not entrusting and observing. Just have faith in Juingong and entrust it with everything. And keep watching. Input everything to the computer that is the mind and pay attention to what comes out. Connect with your inherent Buddha and observe how the things you entrusted are taken care of naturally and automatically. What benefit do you think you will obtain by ignoring your own inherent Buddha and begging others for help? Keep watching your own steps. Keep watching who is talking, who is listening, and who is seeing. Keep watching the one that has been doing everything. Chapter 8. The essence of Buddhism lies in applying and experiencing. Even though the truth that Shakyamuni Buddha taught is so vast and unlimited, if you don't experience it in your daily life, it's of no more use than a picture of food to a hungry person. Even though you see it 100 times, if you can't take hold of it and eat it, it's useless. If you want to realize truth, the Buddha Dharma, you have to experience it through your daily life, your body, and your mind. What could you possibly find by ignoring these and looking for the truth somewhere else? The Buddha taught people to experience the truth for themselves, because this is the only way to become truly free. Even though you memorize all the names of the materials needed to build a house, such as bricks, plywood, beams, and roof tiles, if you don't actually put them together and build a house, they won't be much use, will they? The goal of the Buddha's teachings is application, not intellectual knowledge. From the perspective of our fundamental mind, just doing is easier than speaking. Words may be inadequate or misunderstood, but doing is straightforward. If you do it, it's taken care of. However, people get caught by words and argue about wrong and right without ever trying to experience the Dharma directly. Don't get caught up in theories or arguments. Just taste the truth for yourself, instead of discussing. Remember your fundamental mind. It connects everything and is where everything starts. So entrust that condition to it, and while you're being treated, keep entrusting that situation. As with most problems, there is a portion that others can help you with, but only you can take care of the most fundamental parts. You do this by entrusting everything, even disease and pain, to your foundation. This is because everything, including disease, arises from your foundation. So, that is where the solutions also need to start from. Disorders with the body often happen when the lives that make up our bodies don't view things from the perspective of the whole body. They don't know what's best for the whole, and instead just fight among each other, seeking advantage and domination. Thus, one way of curing disease is to teach all of those lives that fundamentally they are living and working together as one life. What happens to one affects the whole. Entrust to our foundation the thought that we are all sharing the same life, the same mind, the same body, working together as one, and freely give and receive whatever is needed. Then, through our foundation, that thought is instantly communicated to all the lives in our body. When the lives within our body can coexist harmoniously, when they know that other lives are also their life, then a multitude of problems with our bodies will improve or even disappear. True bowing means keeping yourself humble and respecting Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and sages, but at the same time know that their mind and your mind are not two, and never lose your determination and resolution. Accordingly, even if you pray for the help of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, you have to make the focus of that prayer within yourself. If your heart is extremely sincere, you may be able to have some experiences and achieve a certain amount of good fortune. But as long as you are searching outside of yourself, your efforts can never result in true virtue and merit, nor will you achieve the great goal. We bow to Buddha because Buddha's mind and our fundamental mind are not two. Also, bowing is surrendering your physical body and your thoughts of I. Therefore, when bowing, you should always try to be quiet, humble, and extremely sincere, and be grateful for everything.
다른 게 아니고요. 공부를 하다 보니까 보이지도 않는 주인공 잡기가 쉬운 것 같으면서도 어려운데 스님께서는 늘 맡겨라 관하라 하시는데 그거 좀 더 주인공을 더 쉽게 잡는 방법 좀 가르쳐 주십시오.
지금 주인공이 안 계시다면 댁에서 지금 송장이 될 겁니다. 예, 지금 말씀하시게 되는 것도 그 자기의 근본, 생명의 근본이 있기 때문에 지금 말씀을 하시는 거죠. 그러니까 그놈이 보이지도 않으면서 그렇게 그냥 천차만별로 시키고 있습니다. 시키는 게 아니라 자율적이죠. 그러니까 그놈은 잡을 수도 없고 볼 수도 없고 줄 수도 없지만 역력하게 말씀하게 만들고 보게 만들고 듣게 만들고 작용하고 살게 만들고 있지 않습니까? 그래서 한 마음이 다르고 그냥 마음이 다르다. 이런 거는 이 속의 모든 의식들이 한데 합쳐서 하나로 돌아가는 것을 한 마음이라고 그럽니다. 그래서 한 마음으로 돌아가는 내 내면 세계의 모든 것이 하나로 돌아가는 것만 알면 외부의 하나로 돌아가는 것도 다 알게 되는 겁니다. 그러니 나부터 알아야 되겠다. 4대 서인들이 모두 너부터 믿고 너부터 말아야 하느니라. 너부터 말아야 모든 큰 공덕이 되지. 너가 모르고는 절대 공덕을 얻지 못하느니라. 공덕이란 뜻은 모두 하나로 돌아가는 그 자체를 바로 나 하나가 그 하나로 돌아가는 거하고 같이 한 자리를 할 때 비로소 공덕입니다.
공부하다 보니까요, 참 놓아야 된다고 늘 말씀해 주셨는데 그 눈에 보이는 자식놈이 눈앞에서 깔짱거리는 데는 영 마음이 잘 안 다스려집니다.
이거 보세요. 자식놈이 물질적인 육신이 까닥까닥 하는 거지 마음이 누가 나와서 이렇게 까닥까닥 합니까? 아니 그 육신이 아무리 속을 새기고 까닥까닥 한다 하더라도 내 마음과 내 마음이 둘이 아닌 까닭에 너 까닥거리지 마라. 그렇게 해서 거기다가 놓으면은 슬며시 마음이 그렇게 시키는 거지. 마음이 그렇지 않다면은 육신은 움직일 수가 없으니까. 마음의 노름이니까 마음을 잡아야 되는 거지. 육신을 잡으려고 하거나 말로 잡으려고 해서 잡아지는 게 아닙니다. 절대입니다. 그러니까 진짜로 믿는다면 아무 걱정이 없어요. 나가서 안 들어오든 나가서 공부를 안 하든 그게 걱정이 안 될만 하게 원력이 서야 걱정이 안 되죠. 꼰투제비가 꼰투가 아주 100도로 도달했을 때 꼰투하는데 누가 온데도 걱정이 안 되죠. 만약에 그게 설익었으면은 걱정이 되죠. 온통 그냥 떨리고 그냥 부자견하고 무겁고 이렇게 되지만은 그게 설익지 않는다면 걱정이 하나도 없어요. 그런 까닭에 걱정이 하나도 없는 까닭에 걔네들은 잔잔하게 그냥 돌아가요. 또 걱정이 없는 까닭에 그것은 그 마음하고 다 이렇게 통하니까요. 그러니 걱정할 필요가 하나도 사는데 걱정할 필요가 하나도 없는 겁니다. 물론 때에 따라서는 엄청난 일이 생긴다 하면은 걱정이 되지 어찌 안 되겠습니까? 걱정이 돼도 바깥으로 이렇게 풍기고 온통 걱정을 하는 게 아니라 익은 사람들은 안으로 이렇게 걱정이 생긴 것도 너만이 해결할 수 있어 하고 부지런히 육신도 뛰면은 그냥 걱정 없이 뛰면은 그냥 해결이 싹 무마가 돼버리죠. 그러니 걱정할 일이 하나도 없어요. 사람 쳐놓고 움죽거리지 않는 사람은 없으니까. 그래서 육신으로 뛰면서 생각하면서 뛰면서 사는 세태다 이겁니다. 지금 가부 잘 들고 좌선을 하고 앉았으면 앉았는 그 기간만 우주가 돌아가지 또 섰으면 우주가 안 돌아갑니까? 그러니 섰으나 앉았으나 누웠으나 자나 깨나 돌아가는 건 시공이 없이 돌아가는 겁니다. 그러니 시공이 없이 우리도 생각하면서 일하면서 또 무슨 저거 생각나면은 거기다 놓고 그냥 태연히 그냥 날 잡아 잡수 너 하늘이 무너진데도 너만이 해결할 수 있어 그러고 부지런히 걱정 근심을 하지 말고 뛰란 말입니다.
감사합니다.
그러니 그것을 말로다가 생각해서 이걸 잡으려고 그러면 그거 잡아집니까 그게? 생전 안 잡아지지.
Wake up and laugh. Wake up. Stop being deceived by your attachments, fears, and dualistic thinking. The truth you are searching for already exists everywhere in your daily life. When you realize this, you laugh until your sides hurt, and how much effort you spent to discover that you are yourself. These are the characters for Beginner's Mind by Shunryu Suzuki. I have been seeking for a better word than patience. The usual translation of the Japanese word nin is patience, but perhaps constancy is a better word. You must force yourself to be patient, but in constancy there is no particular effort involved. There is only the unchanging ability to accept things as they are. For people who have no idea of emptiness, this ability may appear to be patience, but patience can actually be non-acceptance. People who know, even if only intuitively, the state of emptiness always have open the possibility of accepting things as they are. They can appreciate everything. In everything they do, even though it may be very difficult, they will always be able to dissolve their problems by constancy. Nin is the way we cultivate our own spirit. Nin is our way of continuous practice. We should always live in the dark, empty sky. The sky is always the sky. Even though clouds and lightning come, the sky is not disturbed. Even if the flashing of enlightenment comes, our practice forgets all about it. Then it is ready for another enlightenment. It is necessary for us to have enlightenments one after another, if possible, moment after moment. This is what is called enlightenment before you attain it and after you attain it. Communication. Without any intentional fancy way of adjusting yourself, to express yourself as you are is the most important thing. When you are you, you see things as they are, and you become one with your surroundings. There is your true self. There you have true practice. You have the practice of a frog. He is a good example of our practice. When a frog becomes a frog, Zen becomes Zen. When you understand a frog through and through, you attain enlightenment. You are Buddha. And you are good for others too, husband or wife or son or daughter. This is Zazen. Constancy. People who know the state of emptiness will always be able to dissolve their problems by constancy. The message for us today is cultivate your own spirit. It means not to go seeking for something outside of yourself. This is a very important point, and it is the only way to practice Zen. Of course, studying scriptures or reciting the sutra or sitting in Zen, each of these activities should be Zen. But if your effort or practice does not have the right orientation, it will not work at all. Not only will it not work, but it may spoil your pure nature. Then the more you know about Zen, the more you will become spoiled. Your mind will be filled with rubbish. Your mind will be stained. I want to be a Buddha, the disciple said. Do you know what the teacher did? He picked up a tile and he started to polish it. In Japan, after taking a tile from the kiln, we polish it to give it a beautiful finish. So, Nangaku picked up a tile and started to polish it. Baso, his disciple, asked, "What are you doing?" "I want to make this tile into a jewel," Nangaku said. "How is it possible to make a tile a jewel?" Baso asked. "How is it possible to become a Buddha by practicing Zazen?" Nangaku replied. "Do you want to attain Buddhahood? There is no Buddhahood besides your ordinary mind. When a cart does not go, which do you whip, the cart or the horse?" the master asked. Nangaku's meaning here is that whatever you do, that is Zazen. True Zazen is beyond being in bed or sitting in the Zendo. If your husband or wife is in bed, that is Zazen. If you think I'm sitting here and my spouse is in bed, then even though you are sitting here in the cross-legged position, that is not true Zazen. You should be like a frog, always. That is true Zazen. Dogen Zenji commented on his koan. He said, "When the horse master becomes a horse master, Zen becomes Zen. When Baso becomes Baso, his Zazen becomes true Zazen, and Zen becomes Zen." What is true Zazen? When you become you, when you are you, then no matter what you do, that is Zazen. Even though you are in bed, you may not be you most of the time. Even though you are sitting in the Zendo, I wonder whether you are you in the true sense. If we are like a frog, we are always ourselves. But even a frog sometimes loses himself and he makes a sour face. And if something comes along, he will snap at it and eat it. So I think a frog is always addressing himself. I think you should do that also. Even in Zazen, you will lose yourself. When you become sleepy or when your mind starts to wander about, you lose yourself. When your legs become painful, why are my legs so painful? You lose yourself. Because you lose yourself, your problem will be a problem for you. If you do not lose yourself, then even though you have difficulty, there is actually no problem whatsoever. You just sit in the midst of the problem, when you are a part of the problem. or when the problem is a part of you. There is no problem, because you are the problem itself. The problem is you yourself. If this is so, there is no problem. When your life is always a part of your surroundings, in other words, when you are called back to yourself in the present moment, then there is no problem. When you start to wander about in some delusion, which is something apart from you yourself, then your surroundings are not real anymore, and your mind is not real anymore. If you yourself are deluded, then your surroundings are also misty, foggy delusion. Once you are in the midst of delusion, there is no end to delusion. You will be involved in deluded ideas, one after another. Most people live in delusions, involved in their problem, trying to solve their problem. But just to live is actually to live in problems. And to solve the problem is to be part of it, to be one with it. So, which do you hit, the cart or the horse? Which do you hit, yourself or your problem? So again, what made it click for me to understand those Zen teachings, it was this book, Whole Brain Living by Jill Bolte Taylor. If you read this book first, and then you look with this newfound perspective onto these Zen teachings, you will get it. But still, one needs to consciously practice. Be in the present moment and enjoy nature, for example. Always get back into the present moment. I think that's the key. Find your inner silence. Your deep inner peace that resides within your heart. To me, it is very helpful to always focus on that point. Somehow, when I do that, I feel this inner peace. I feel the present moment, and all becomes silent, and that's wonderful. Returning to the source. I've crossed over so many mountains in order to return to this root. Here is my true home, in appearance like the open sky, with nothing hindering it and nothing to be gotten rid of. The waters of a stream, just flowing, the flowers so beautiful.